Welcome to Warren County Community College's drone program. This is class number 2, regulations for FAA and the law. This is the third section and final section of this portion of your class videos. Today we will focus in on drones, the FAA, and the laws, federal and state. We will review first a number of sample questions that may or may not look like the questions you will get on the Part 107 test. One of the questions will deal with how high can you fly your drone? And the go-to answer on this will be 400 feet. 400 feet above ground level. Remember, you can also fly 400 feet above a structure as long as you remain within 400-foot radius of that structure at all times during the flight. What's the maximum speed you may fly a drone? It will be either 100 miles per hour or 87 knots. On your test, you may get one, both, or either of the answers. So please be careful, because sometimes it may appear as 87 miles per hour and 100 knots. So remember, maximum speed, 100 miles per hour, 87 knots. What's the lightest drone that must be registered? Anything over 0.55 pounds. That's roughly just over half a pound. Your maximum blood alcohol level when flying a drone cannot exceed 0.04. This is different than most state driving laws, which is a little bit more. So remember, 0.04 is the answer for the Part 107 test. How long must pass since you consumed alcohol? And the answer is 8 hours. This is commonly referred to as 8 hours bottle to throttle. In other words, you must let 8 hours pass between your last drink and the time you try to pick up a ground control station or a remote control. The maximum time to report or file an FAA accident report is 10 days. The amount of time you have to notify the FAA if you move is 30 days. The lead time required to request an FAA waiver, or at least to expect an answer, is 90 days. So remember these days, 10, 30, 90. 10 days for you to report an accident to the FAA, that is urgent. 30 days for you to report that you have moved and change your address. And the most amount of time goes to the FAA for them to respond to your waiver request. What is the youngest age that someone can register a drone? That is 13 years old. 16 to become a pilot, 13 to register the drone as a hobbyist or recreational flyer. How long is Part 107 certification good for? 2 years, 24 months. You will see either on the test 2 years or 24 months. You must take the test again. It is a recurrent test, so it is a little shorter, but you must retest every 2 years. The time before sunrise and sunset that you are allowed to fly legally under Part 107 is 30 minutes. The distance that your anti-collision lights must be visible when flying during twilight is 3 statute miles. You will see this number many times. 3 statute miles is a common number. Repair costs that must be reported as an accident to the FAA is $500, but not including the price of your drone. So, as you see, does it include your drone? No. What is the answer to any Part 107 question that asks who is responsible? Congratulations, you are responsible once you pass the test. The remote pilot in command is almost always the answer to any question that begins, who is responsible? So let's try this. Who is ultimately responsible for preventing a hazard? You can stop now. It's the remote pilot in command, or RPIC, or PIC. You may see this answer in multiple ways. Remember, when taking the test, it's a 3-answer multiple choice. Who may process an application for the Part 107 certificate? And that is the designated pilot examiner. Which person must be under the supervision of the PIC when operating the UAS? That is a person manipulating the controls. They cannot fly the drone without the remote PIC there. There must always be a remote PIC in any commercial operation. What's my sole purpose during drone operations? If I am to watch the UAS and report any hazards in the sky, I am the visual observer. Which crew members must be used during a Part 107 operation? Only the remote pilot in command. You may elect to use a person manipulating the control, visual observer, or multiple visual observers, or even security personnel. But what must you have? The person responsible, otherwise known as the remote PIC. Here's one. If your drone damages property of which the fair market value is $300, but it'll cost you $800 to fix, does the accident need to be reported? You probably answered yes. The answer is no. You do not need to report it because the fair market value is $300, which falls below the $500. This is one of the few instances where this will work to your favor. Same is true on the other side. If the fair market value was $600, but you could repair it for $200, does the accident need to be reported? We've reversed the numbers, but still one of them falls below $500, so the answer is no. If sunset is 2021 and the end of civil twilight is 2043, when must the PIC terminate the flight? Sometimes you would add 30 minutes, but they tell you when it ends at 2043. So normally you might think 2051, but because they actually give you the end time, it is 8:43 or 4,300 hours. Can I drop packages without a VO as a delivery business? No, you cannot drop packages without a VO. There's no way to comply with the safety mitigation rules of Advisory Circular 107.2. I highly recommend you Google Advisory Circular 107.2 and familiarize yourself with this document. This will be your best friend as a remote pilot in command. When can someone with a marijuana conviction apply for a remote pilot certificate? 1 year after their conviction. Remember, the FAA is a federal operation. If your state has legalized marijuana, that does not supersede the authority of the federal agency. Marijuana is still a controlled substance, according to the federal government. When must the current remote pilot certificate be in the pilot's personal possession or readily accessible in the aircraft? The answer is every time you are in command or as a crew member. Carry your license with you at all times. Crew conducting surveillance anticipates losing visual sight with the drone within just a little itty-bitty segment of the flight plan. What must you do? The flight must be rerouted. You must 100% of the time maintain visual line of sight with your drone as a commercial, responsible professional pilot. According to 14 CFR Part 107, the maximum ground speed, and again, you will either pick 87 knots or, that's right, 100 miles per hour. Which aircraft has the right of way over other traffic? An airplane. Okay, remember, if it is between your drone and a manned aircraft, there are people on that plane. They have the right of way. You are responsible to get out of their way and not place them in danger. What action should the pilot take if a collision is anticipated? You must adjust course. This is the only time you could go above 400 feet. You can deviate from the rules with the intent of avoiding an emergency or catastrophe. What must you do as a remote pilot prior to each flight? Make a plan. Keep non-participants clear indoors or under cover. Go out ahead of time. Ensure that you are going to safely execute your mission. Who holds the responsibility to ensure? Who's responsible? The remote pilot in command. Now, I'll leave this up for a second so you can read the rest, but always remember, you are responsible. If you're caught smoking marijuana, the FAA will issue an immediate suspension or revocation of your pilot certificate. Again, federal law is over local law. So if local law has legalized marijuana, that does not matter to the federal government. Next, I'd like to invite you to take a quick look at our attorney's website, Jonathan Ruprecht. He serves Warren County Community College and many others. His law practice is specifically designated and available for drones. On his website at jruprechtlaw.com, Drone Laws State, you can find regulations for a state. So you choose your state, and then the regulations will be there. I highly recommend, once you've passed your Part 107, that you look at Mr. Ruprecht's site and look at your state laws and see what might qualify as a law for drone operations. In many cases, what you will find is that the regulations that are related to privacy are always related to drones, and that there is other provisions dependent on the state you live in. And this will vary state to state. Okay, so in New Jersey, you cannot help hunt or take wildlife with a drone, but in another state, you very well may. You will find, as we are from New Jersey, we are well aware that this state is often called the nanny state. So you should, if you're flying in New Jersey, definitely look at all local laws. And finally, that concludes Class 2 videos. This is the third part. Remember to check your local and state laws, as well as changes to federal regulations and federal law concerning drone operations. Have a wonderful day.